Hi, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. For those of you returning, welcome back. For those of you that this is your very first time viewing this channel, I just want to give you a little bit of a bird's eye view. We focus right now on Les Filles du Roi. There's about 700 of them. We're knee deep into the series. I do have some other videos you might want to have a look at involving genealogy and travel and that sort of thing. So have a look at that. Always remember, I love when you subscribe. I love when you click the notification so you know when I'm posting new content. I post content about twice a week now. That may change. I may do more. I love hearing from you in terms of if you are related to a certain Fille du Roi that we're doing, and or if there's a Fille du Roi you'd like me to feature. So please feel free to write to me at Lisa@Have Roots Will Travel, or post a comment below in the video. I see everything and I try to respond in a timely manner. I also have a Facebook page and I'm on Twitter. So with that being said, let's get started. For those of you just joining us, Les Filles du Roi is a program that was begun in 1663 by the intendant Jean Thalot. I have done a video called Les Filles du Roi 2.0, the program, in which I describe the entire program and how it kind of evolved. So have a look at that if you want to get some background information. With that being said, let's get started and see who we've got going this week as a Fille du Roi for the week. This week's Fille du Roi is Catherine Paulo. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Let me know in the comments below if you have a different take on that. Let's get to know Catherine. Now, Catherine was born and baptized January 9th, 1649 in the city of La Rochelle. The parish that she was born into was Notre-Dame de Gagne, and the church that you see in front of you, that is her church. It was built probably in the 1100s. Certainly we have mention of it in 1152, so it's definitely part of that 12th century. You know, you see a lot of the churches from that time period. Now, this church was one of the most important and the main church of La Rochelle during many centuries. And it was burned and destroyed and then rebuilt and reused, and it's got a tremendous history. So those of you with this ancestry need to certainly put that on your bucket list. Now let's talk a little bit about La Rochelle and its history and what it's known for. La Rochelle was founded during the 10th century and became an important harbor in the 12th century. Until the 15th century, La Rochelle was to be the largest French harbor on the Atlantic coast, dealing mainly in wine, salt, and cheese, all the good stuff. The name was first recorded in 961 as Rubella, from a Latin diminutive meaning little rock. La Roche, remember those of you who speak French, Roche means a rock. La Rochelle has one of the richest histories of all the towns of France, from its beginnings as an area where the Knights of Templar had their strongest base. Now, Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry Plantagenet in 1152, and then Henry became King of England as Henry II in 1154. So it meant that La Rochelle came under English rule until Louis VIII captured it in the 1224 siege of La Rochelle. During the British control of the city, Henry II in 1185 had the Vauclair Castle built, remains of which are still visible in the Place de Verdun. So again, one of those amazing things. From 1568, La Rochelle became a center for the Huguenots. So this is the area that Catherine would have been born into. It was in La Rochelle that the Protestant revolts occurred and created the uprising that would become known again as the Siege of La Rochelle. Throughout the 1600s, the Huguenots were consistently expelled from La Rochelle. Every time I have someone from this area, I always think to myself, was there any kind of religious reason? Now, if you were Protestant, you would have to, in Canada, once you got to New France, because you could not be not Catholic and live in New France at that time, you'd have to convert from your Protestant background. There is no evidence that Catherine had that, so I'm, we'll just leave that to history. But that is the amazing town where she's from. You can see the map on the left where it indicates where it is in relationship to everything. You can see definitely right on that Atlantic Ocean. And then, of course, the amazing classic portrait of La Rochelle as it looks today, very, very historic. After her father's death, Catherine would embark on the greatest adventure of her life. She would be on that very first boat that brought Les Filles du Roi, the very first batch of them, if you will, to New France. That boat was called the Phoenix de Fléchagne, and it sailed and arrived in Quebec on June 30th, 1663. Amazing. She was but 18 years old. So who was the groom she selected? His name was Etienne Campo. Etienne was born in the Brevet-la-Galard in the department of Limousin, which is now part of the Nouvelle-Aquitaine. France is subdivided so many times, it's definitely, they have a very strict organizing way. And what makes it more challenging for us studying is the fact that it used to have it, and now, it used to be in this particular province, and now it's in this. It'd be sort of as if, someone was born in Kansas, and then all of a sudden, no, now it's now Missouri. So it's just very, very challenging, to say the least. The church where he would have been baptized is called the Collégial Saint-Martin de Brevet-le-Galard, and it has its origins in the 11th century. Brevet has been inhabited since the 1st century. By the 5th, the city had grown around the Saint Martin River. By the 12th century, the city was protected by walls, and during the 100 Years' War, a second wall was built. So you can kind of see in that left-hand picture what it looks like today. This commune, remember a commune in France is really a township, would have been called Brevet until 1919 when La Galard was added to the name, just to make things more complicated. Galard, which means honor or strength, and probably referred to the amazing, the focus point of this particular place as the resistance in France during the First and Second World War. He arrived in New France in the early 1660s, and in 1663 his name appears in Ville-Marie's archives when, along with several Montrealers, the first inhabitants of Montreal, he enlisted in the Saint-Famille militia. So there was a militia, so he didn't come across as a Carignan soldier, but he came across and he joined a militia. In 1663, he was hired along with François Lebert to clear Lemoine's family land, which was later transferred to Marguerite Bourgeois, who was the founder of that church and who housed so many of the Filles du Roi. Today, this land corresponds to the site of Maison Saint-Gabriel, and it's probably at this location that he met Catherine, his future wife. Now, they were married in November, November 26, 1663 in Montreal. So this is like such an early marriage. I mean, just really historic. Now, the family settled at Montreal, Ville-Marie as it was called. And you can see here in the little clip that I put in the 1666 census, we have Etienne Campo, probably 1667, and then we have Catherine listed as his wife, 20, so there's about a 10-year spread. They already have Etienne and Marie, who was 18 months, 3 Bestiaux, and 6 arpents en valeur. So they already have, by then, 3 or 4 years into their marriage, 6 arpents, which corresponds to 3 or 4 acres of land. So very well done for Etienne and Catherine. So let's talk a little bit about Montreal. This wonderful city that would become Montreal started off as Ville-Marie by the founder, Paul de Chomedy. He was the Sœur de Maisonneuve. It was essentially, and Montreal was essentially a missionary center. But in May of 1642, that's when we can actually say, okay, this is when it began. The colony would not thrive, and it was on the verge of extinction when Chomedy decided to return to France to recruit 100 settlers, who would then be known as Le Grand Recrue. From this small group would evolve the Notre Dame congregation from Sister Marguerite Bourgeois, who was part of that Grand Recrue. When Montreal was founded, the new colonists were rapidly confronted by a fearsome enemy, the Iroquois. And unfortunately, there was still no regular army in Montreal, until 1665, when the Carignan-Sanière regiment landed there. In the meantime, militias capable of resisting Iroquois attacks were set up. On January 27, 1663, Chomedy de Maisonneuve created the Saint-Famille militia to protect Ville-Marie and its inhabitants. It was made up of 139 voluntary colonists divided into 20 squads. A corporal was elected by the members of each squad. The Saint-Famille militia was headed by Zachary Dupuis, future owner of the fief of Verdun. So let's have a look. And now I just give you some beautiful photographs of Montreal. On the top middle is obviously where Montreal, what it looks like today. We've got the bottom center. This is one of those old maps. On the upper right, we've got, kind of the drawing of Montreal Ville-Marie as it was at that time. And on the upper left, is the classic church of Montreal, and it really does look like this. If any of you go to old Montreal, this is the beauty of it. And the bottom left is another kind of illustration of the island and all of its components with the Mont Royal and all of that. So Montreal remains my favorite city, probably because I was born about an hour from it. So let's have a look at how Catherine and Etienne evolve in their life. So Catherine and Etienne become the pioneers of another place called Verdun or Verdun. And we can see here in the 1681 census that I've clipped, Etienne, Catherine, and his children. We have Marie, Michel, Catherine, Louise, Jacques, and Marguerite, which we'll get to know in a minute. They have one gun, 7 bêtes à cornes, which are 7 goats, and they have 25 arpents à valeur. So they've increased their holdings by quite a significant amount. So that means about 20 acres of land. Let's talk a little bit about Verdun. In 1671, Zachary Dupuis is given a fief next to Sault Louis and Lachine. He names it Verdun, after a village in his home region of France. And so we've discussed about the Indian threat and why the governor Maisonneuve was so focused on protecting the land. And he offered land to the men who would protect this area, and 7 men accepted, and Etienne Paulo was one of them. This area was called Côte des Argoulets. Out of the original 7 men, the only one who never left the area was Etienne Paulo. So you can kind of consider it. I think, like when I read that, I was like, well, he's like the founder of Verdun. So he definitely was there at the beginning, and truly helped to, establish it on the map, so to speak. Now, Etienne and Catherine would go on to have 15 children. Let's look at each of them because they are truly, again, the true descendancy of this amazing couple. Their firstborn, Etienne, married Jeanne Fauché and had 3 children, all three of whom made it. Marie married Etienne Desbiens and had 10 children, 6 of whom made it. Michel married Jeanne Mercier and had 5 children, all of whom made it. Jean would die in infancy. Catherine married François Bleu and had 7 children, 6 of whom made it. François married Madeleine Brossard, and they had 3 children, all of whom made it. Catherine married Pierre and had 4 children, all of whom made it. Louis married François Courtier and had 3 children, all of whom made it. Jacques married Jeanne Cécile Catelet and had 6 children, all of whom made it. Jeanne married Etienne Benoit and had 5 children, all of whom made it. Jean-Baptiste married Elisabeth Bernier and had 5 children, 4 of whom made it. Marie-Elisabeth married Pierre Veliquet and had 5 children, all of whom made it. Agathe Barbe married Paul Chevenier and had 3 children, all of whom made it. Francois would die in infancy, as would Charles. That is an amazing, amazing descendancy. Etienne would pass away sometime between 1690 and 1692. He would have been 52 and 54, a very young age, even for this time period. Even with this early death, Catherine and Etienne would have been married at least 27 years at that time. Catherine herself would pass away in Montreal in 1721 on the 15th of April. She is buried at the Marguerite Bourgeois Park in Montreal. For those of you with this descendancy, I would urge you to go and look up more information on the Marguerite Bourgeois Park, and that is the stone that is there at that park. The picture illustrated up there I found, and I thought it was so nice. It was kind of depicts Marguerite Bourgeois greeting the girls as they came off the ship. It's obviously an artistic impression. And this one here on the right is actually, there's a wonderful, wonderful website called MontrealHistory.com, and they actually profile and have a little video on Etienne and Catherine. So I urge you, and I put the link up for you to have a look at. One of the things that I've had a lot of viewers ask me for is, where can I go to get more information? These are my top 3 areas of, I go for either inspiration or just communication. Let's start with the first one, Les Filles du Roi, the society. It is one that you can join at a very minimal cost, and will give you a beautiful certificate. I would urge you to check it out. I've got a link to it, and I am a member, and I'm also actually the membership chairperson, and I really want to promote there. And you don't have to be a member to go on the site, and there are certain things that are available. And before I was a member, I was using that site a lot, so here you go. Now, something that I've discovered over the last few months is a fabulous, fabulous Facebook group called Les Filles du Roi Descendants. I would urge you, if that's something you would like to do, it's a closed group, so you need to apply, but it's really just a question of answering a few questions. And then one of the top 3, the top places I go to for information on Les Filles du Roi is a website called Migration, and I put the website. It's got everything. I mean, it's just amazing. They've got the ship's logs, they've got information on Les Filles du Roi, they've got the Carignan regiment soldiers. It's just really incredible, incredible resource. So check that out. I've got the links for you to look up. And with that, we end our story of Catherine and Etienne, but I do have to summarize Catherine's contribution. In 1729, there was a study done of the number of descendants. Catherine Paulo and Etienne Campo's descendancies by then, remember they had 15 children and had so many descendants even then, amounted to 194 descendants. She became one of the top 10 in that study in terms of the longevity and the study. So I would suspect that there are a lot of you who have this wonderful lady in your tree. I'd love to hear your descendants, say what line you come down from. So just amazing, amazing couple, founders and pioneers, and truly, truly established a very strong family tree. So for that, we thank her and her contribution, and we salute you, Catherine. Until the next time, with the next Filles du Roi, I bid you adieu and au revoir.